It's funny because when I look at it whenever I I always thought, where would it go? The problem is because some of these you can look at it. Actually, Kerman, hey Joe. Well, what does it say? What might make sense? Send her a message now. That's what I was going to say. So yeah, it needs to go first. Alright, hello everybody. I don't have the benefit of a microphone, so I'll just yell really loud. I don't know where the microphone went, but it disappeared. Anyway, my name is Chris Meyer, and welcome to Sector 67. If you've never been here before, we do these monthly meetings. It's a series of 7-minute talks just on random projects people are working on or things people have made. And so there's a countdown timer in the back of the room. People get 7 minutes to talk about the project. You can quiz them with hopefully good questions afterwards. And usually people stick around after the meeting if you have further questions or want to take a closer look or otherwise. So without further ado, I'll give it to Nate. After Nate, we're going to try to do a remote Skype call with somebody, so we might be setting that up while he's talking. But hopefully it works perfectly, I'm sure. Hi, Shira. She's on the other side of the live stream here. Anyway, go ahead, Nate. Alright, so I take on contract projects periodically, and one of
of the projects I recently had to take on involved pushing a cart through a building at a very, very slow but continuous pace, meaning it shouldn't speed up or slow down whether you're going up a hill, down a hill, flat, over obscure terrain in the room. It just needs to stay at basically the same speed. I decided to go the wheelchair route, but unfortunately wheelchairs don't have built-in encoders and they're not really servo, so I had to convert the system to a servo, meaning that the actual controller system is analyzing how fast the motor is running and it never lets it go faster or slower than it wants. If it goes up a hill, it provides more power to continue moving up the hill at the same speed. If it goes down a hill, it actually reduces the power to keep the speed the same. So this is kind of the project I built for it. The company that actually does the electronics for it is called Dimension Engineering. I used their Sabertooth line of motor controllers, and the add-on board that they provide is called a Kangaroo servo board, basically, and that's what actually controls the actual speed of it. So there's one control box down here that actually has the electronics in it, and then there's actually one control box up here that you hold on to because this is supposed to be for a commercial environment. Well, I'll just give a quick demo of it. So, right now it's moving. Pushing at about the same pace.
So even if a kid falls down in front of it, it's still running.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part. It just keeps going. It's got a dead man switch on it, so that if somebody lets go of the controller, it shuts down. And I also have a fuse on it, which I can attach a cable to, so in case it does run away, it'll yank the cable and shut it down. This is moving very, very slowly at the moment, but actually this is not the normal speed of a wheelchair. Theoretically, if the controller failed, it would run at full speed. There are a few other error issues that I'm trying to work out, such as if one of the wires falls off of the encoder, it seems to freak out. And it just wants to continue going because it thinks it's not moving anymore. Like all product development endeavors, they tend to have mysteries and don't have an immediate solution for it. So. Does anyone have any questions?
Maybe you can't tell us, but can you explain why they needed this thing?
It's a painting and coating company.
Okay.
They redo the inside of buildings.
So it would be getting sprayed or something.
Yes. So that's kind of the concept.
John, do you have a question? Could you adapt it to well?
We can try it.
You attach a large concrete saw to it?
It would be able to handle 6-inch going up hills and downs while welding?
Well, we'll work on that in the future. Maybe we'll put a giant robotic arm on it. So.
Will the final actually be built out of the wood?
We don't know at this point. Just looking into the idea of it. So I'm sure the final version will be significantly fancier. So, any other questions?
What kind of payload, how much weight is it designed to carry? I mean, is there something that's going to go on top of that?
It's going to push a cart. It's not going to be sustaining the load.
Okay.
So the idea is to have it have as much weight as it itself can handle to make sure it gets as much traction as it can get, but not to actually support the load of anything that it's working with.
Are you planning to program it so that it'll like do a sweep across something, or is a human being going to be controlling it all times?
At this point, a human being will be controlling it at all times. In the future, it may be fully automated. It's tough to say.
So you said that you're sending the speed from the existing motors. Are you reading the pulses from the coils, or how exactly?
So I had to pull the back off of the wheelchair motors, which by default have a brake built into them, and I replaced the brake with encoders that I bought from China. So they have 600 pulses per revolution, so it pays pretty close attention to what the motor itself is doing. And that's how it knows its feedback.
Anybody else? Maybe you need a really slow wheelchair. Thank you, Nate. Yep. There's Shira in giant form.
You guys hear me?
Turn off the front light.
Alright, so I'm speaking to you from Hampshire College. That is in Amherst, Massachusetts. Everyone just keeps saying near Boston. We're our own distinct township. Hampshire College is one of the two places I work at. I teach creative electronics here, and Esther, I'll be teaching robotics. Did I hear something, like question?
Nope. You dropped off for a second.
Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a tour of the Center for Design, which is where I am right now, in an office that I share. And this is the Center for Design. This is the machine shop at Hampshire College. There's also the machine shop where I work at UMass Amherst, for the University of Massachusetts. Amherst is the flagship campus of that system. They have 5 colleges located throughout Massachusetts. So it's kind of busy. There's a workshop going on jewelry making right now and a few other cool things. I hope you enjoy that tour. So let's just start it. Let's see. All right, how's that?
Yeah.
All right, so firstly, I have to brag a little bit. This is Zach Little. Do you mind if I just quickly introduce you? He's a UMass Amherst student, but he's also here at Hampshire College. He is helping out students with electronics needs. And that was something that people had asked for in this space. And we have parts wall. We've got an oscilloscope. We've got soldering irons. I'm kind of nervous. Haven't seen you guys for so long. And then we're moving into the electronics shop where the jewelry making class is taking place. Industrial design classes, and there's project space for my class.
I did this earlier. We tested this. Hopefully it'll come back. We'll see. Don't worry, the clock's still running. She's only got 7 laps. Maybe. Alright, who's a Google Hangout expert? Who are you?
It'll reconnect automatically. It's not really much to do.
We'll see how it goes. It's funny, she was worried about the internet earlier because there was people using it, and now apparently there's no one using it because they're doing like a class and that's all the people that are there, and now it's fine, it doesn't work. No big deal. Yeah, it might be our internet too. That's a good point. You never know.
Everyone off your phones. Aaron, are you done with it?
Yeah, we'll try to kill it soon.
She's finished the tour already.
Power outage, that's why.
That's us.
That's us, yeah.
I want her to be able to see the clock ticking down, so she didn't get any idea.
I think I'm enjoying it.
You know, reconnect.
Really?
And that's where I work.
So like the room still exists, but. Oh, we could try again.
You try inviting her.
Yeah.
Her phone would be right.
What if she's so
I thought I did make a call.
What if she's
He probably doesn't
No,
even
I
know.
think she knows that we died. It's alright. This is ringing this time. Hey.
Alright. Trial 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank God you're in the same state. You gotta re-interview him now.
Alright. Pass the Wi-Fi dead spot.
Yep.
It looks like Sector.
Quickly. More like this.
bicycle
We have way more bike bills than that.
Yeah.
Is she talking?
She already explained this when you went there.
That's a plasma cutter.
Oh, there's another dead spot.
You guys have liquid nitrogen on site?
Oxygen.
Well's a
Oxygen tank. Hey, Shira, can you hear us? Maybe we have
It's
audio.
laggy because this is the dead spot.
Ah, that's
Let me
fine.
move back.
Yep, there you go.
Alright, back to good Wi-Fi.
How many square feet is that place? It looks huge.
I don't know. I have to look it up. But yeah, this place is definitely oriented towards more analog machines. You know, we don't really have a 3D printer or a laser cutter in here, and it's really traditional in some sense, like, you know, traditional machining. And I think it's a great skill. I think that with more staffing, there could be the support for 3D printing. But you know, back at Sector, Chris is always fixing the printers, and that is the only way to get a printer farm working for the long term. To have a person to constantly fix them.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Right, well technically I actually only teach here and I actually work at UMass Amherst. So that is my job at UMass Amherst.
So when do we get a tour there?
Next week, next month I mean?
Cool. So what do you like the most and what do you like the least so far?
Well, I miss everybody. All my friends are 20-year-old boys in college, right? Because that's things. I mean, that is, right? So, especially at UMass Amherst, at the ECE Makerspace, you know, electrical engineering isn't really popular with women for starters. I don't know why, but it's definitely the demographics of that department reflects my experiences at my department at USC when I did my undergrad. And everyone there, of course, is doing their undergrad is between 18 and 22. So you're like, you know, compared to Sector, there's a really homogenous group of people, and I don't really have the kind of social life that I had at Sector, which I really appreciated Sector's community, and I'm coming back in November for a week around Thanksgiving, so let's see what the calendar looks like. Between the 20th and the 25th, I will be, that's not the exact dates, but that whole week I'm going to be helping out at Sector, so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again.
I'm sure no one will have any questions for you.
So does this
Alright,
mean
so
that, does this mean that you work at 2 makerspaces and you're probably still gonna have to go and join one to hang out at night? Like,
Yeah, right, so I have the keys to 2 spaces, and I'm working on a third one. And the third one is going to be really, really big. We're talking 600 feet long and 60 feet wide. It's an entire building. It is really cool. We call it the Bridge, and right now it's mostly empty.
Cool. Anybody have other questions? I will relay questions, so hang on. Unless you can hear them. Anybody?
How many hours are you working?
So I keep a rough log of the hours I am physically at UMass Amherst campus. Just that, like not the hours I spent on email at home and not the hours I spent here at Hampshire. And last week I spent 51 because we had a hackathon all weekend. It's a 37-hour event called Hack UMass. And the big theme this year was remotely unlockable doors, which is just terrifying.
What could go wrong? Anybody else? Any other questions?
It's
Electrical.
great to see you, Shira.
The
Great to see you too. Hey Tim.
Anybody else? Awesome.
How's that husband of yours doing?
How's Scott?
Scott is very much enjoying teaching artificial intelligence and Java 2.
I think I
He hates Java 2.
I was just gonna say, I think he's got a
Like-
favorite.
That is the hottest and the lamest technology in the world right now.
So I'm gonna keep watching the stream that Brian has online, and I'll let you guys go because the excruciating lag and everything is kind of frustrating. But it was great to kind of see you guys. It's all kind of blurry. I can't really see.
Turn the lights
any of
on.
you.
Lights.
Turn the lights on
Come on.
so she can see us.
All right,
There you
bye.
go.
Bye, Sharon.
I see you now. I see you. Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Alright, so- Kate, you're up next. Maybe.
Can I use your computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this one. So, too bad, thanks. Well, no, 'cause it's still on. There you go. More like it's like.
You won't?
So, just want to get close to both of them.
I was gonna ask Shira when she was gonna steal all the equipment from one and then steal all the equipment from the other.
Is that how you got started, Chris?
Yeah. I wish. It went way easier.
Nope. Alright. Well, this is just a little project. I thought it would be kind of fun. So, some of you probably have cell phones that can charge on these little pads now instead of having to plug in your phone. And those of you that don't, I think this is where things are going. So I think a couple phones from now you will have one of these. So I got a phone that has one, so I was very excited. That was one reason I picked my phone. And you just set your phone on top, and it charges. So you don't have to fumble with cords. Because I play on my phone all the way until just the moment before I go to sleep. So then I would plop it up on this pad. But I found real quickly that if the phone is just a little bit uneven, so if your phone's just shifted a little bit to the side, it doesn't charge. And then you wake up in the morning, your phone only has 5% battery, and it's a real pain. So I thought, I will make a box that will help align my phone. So this was the first one that I made. So I measured my phone and its case, and made this nice little box. The box fits on here. And then that way I can like blindly, right before I go to sleep, just drop my phone in there and it automatically aligns it and charges every time.
A little bell go off when it hits.
Yeah. If you have the sound on your phone, it makes a sound, but if you have it on silent, it doesn't. Which often I do. So I think in general, most problems in your life can be solved by the laser cutter, and so I'm going to put that to the test with this. So this was my first design, so I decided to do a stacked design. So the laser cutter here can cut at about 1/4 inch thickness of plywood. So if you want something thicker than that, you can just layer it up. So you can see the different layers. And then just for fun, I did a decorative design on the top. So that was just engraving, not cutting all the way through. I don't know, it's kind of like a fish scale pattern. I thought it looked cool. So I use a laser cutter right over there, that red one. And then here we go. So that was my first version of it, and this has been working great. So everything was done. But then I decided to make a second one because I went out to Colorado to visit my brother. So he's actually both of the people who aren't kids are my brothers. But my brother Matt is the one who organized this camping trip for me and my other brother and my nephew to all go hiking and camping together, and we had a really great time. And it was a lot of work for my brother, I think, to plan and organize all this. And while I was there visiting him in Colorado, I noticed he has the exact same phone as me and the same case as me in a different color. And so I thought, I'll make him one of these. And it was a chance to improve on this design as well. The only problem I have with this one is I do have to kind of reach my nails in to grip it out again. So I wanted to make it a little bit easier to remove the phone on this one. And my brother's a Cubs fan for some reason, I don't know. So this was my second design here, and I'll show you how this all assembled now. So I've got this kind of tack, so you can put your fingers here and here to kind of grip out the phone, so it's a little bit easier. And I had to Google Cubs logo. I'm from Chicago too, so I should be embarrassed, but I'm not. So the laser just engraved that, and then I used a very small paintbrush to kind of fit, the engraving helped me paint in the right spot, kind of help the paint pool in the right areas. So, although apparently it didn't help the Cubs this year, but my brother really likes his cell phone holder, charging case, and he has teenage son and teenage daughter who he said were both jealous of it, so it must be good. Yeah, so just a fun little project, makes my life a little bit easier every night. So.
Christmas presents for your nephew and niece didn't have.
Well, that's a good point. I guess I could, maybe. We'll see.
You weren't going to at all.
That's that.
Do you got any questions?
So is this your Amazon Christmas project?
Oh.
That's a great idea.
You know what the problem is, though?
It's not enough laser cutting time. That's the problem.
Yeah, that is the first problem. I worry, I feel like I'd have to do a really good survey of the sizes of phones and cases, because I'm worried the cases would disrupt it. And with these, so this is a Samsung phone. I think there's a lot of phones that do, a lot of Android phones now that do this charging. Like my dad also has something called a Galaxy 8, but it's got some different letter after it than mine, and my dad's won't fit in here. So I'm worried there'd be so many different sizes that I might have to make, but I'm not sure. I guess what I'm gonna do would be to measure everybody I know's phone and then
Make it adjustable.
Make one really big case.
what?
Make one really big case.
There we go. Okay.
So, a company I used to work for did development with cell phones, and they had to buy one of every phone, basically. But there's a place over, I don't know how well maintained it is, but just if anybody thinks this is cool, I forget what it's called the Mobile Device Lab, but it's over at University Research Park. Right. And there's one of every phone there. And this company was like, hey, you ever walked into a phone store? I had to go to a phone store once and buy $8,000 of phones. And then never use it. Unactivated, unlocked, no contract phones, they're expensive.
Yeah.
So some company was like, well, let's let somebody else benefit from this. So mobile app developers and stuff, you can go and
rent time?
no, you can just use it for free. You just gotta, there's a sign up sheet. It's in,
That's crazy.
it's in the, what are the incubators called over there? I can't remember the name of it.
Should it all have
the MGB
different
one,
cases too?
no, they're on there, but at least you don't have to buy the phone. So if anybody ever needs 20 different cell phones, they have the lab.
So you almost have to know
Where
what's
is
the most.
that? Can you be louder?
Oh, University Research Park at the incubator on the second floor up there. I forget, MadWorks it used to be called, but yeah, back in the court it's called it had a webpage too. It's the Mobile Device Lab in Madison or something like that. But
Brilliant.
super cool, yeah, really good. There was a Google Glass there too last time I was there.
Are those still a thing?
No.
Do the two devices have to be in actual physical contact with each other?
Yeah, so a case is enough. It still works through a case, but it was even an issue. When you're buying cases, you have to search can you charge through it? So there must be some limit that is not that much thicker than this, which it won't charge through. And from what I can tell online, you can also reach a point where it can become finicky if you've got some sort of just that right threshold barrier where it could charge, not charge, or wind up charging slower than the end result. But with at least this case, which is a fairly heavy duty case, because I'm a phone dropper, so I got a fairly heavy case, and it works just fine. I actually really like it. So the idea of the wireless charging.
You know that iris over there that closes around the center, where you could have something like that could size up and down.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that actually would be really cool. It might take a lot of space on your table, but it might be worth it.
Lock it in place once you figure it out. Could prevent other people from using it.
It's symmetric, so it's flipped around.
It's the exact center, so yeah. So at least which would make the iris thing quite possibly work. And there is some wiggle room in the positioning, you know, but not, I'm about to fall asleep amount.
Anybody else?
You could take those two walls. I mean, if you have right now you've got 4 walls to contain it in the space. Just 2 of them out. You could try charging other phones, seeing if it gets close enough.
Oh, that's
then
true.
you don't have to worry about the size of the ball.
That's true. That's true. Maybe, yeah. See, because you could do it. It would be interesting. Which dimension of the phone is more variable? Maybe I'm gonna guess this one's more variable. I don't know. I can go to the phone lab and measure them all. Find out.
Or maybe somebody's done that already. Look it up.
That is a good point. Oh, I think it would change every year. Thanks, everybody.
Alright, so, it's kind of an older crowd.
Show of hands, who knows what this is? Okay, alright, I wasn't too far off.
You're out of the pulse.
I told him he needed to start with the background on what this thing was. And go from there.
Okay, so this is from the show Rick and Morty. And for one episode, he changes himself into a pickle, because he can, to avoid going to family therapy. Turns out to be one of the best episodes ever. Because then Pickle gets batted off a table by a cat who thought it was a cucumber, and then he falls down the sewer, and he has to manipulate cockroaches and rats into placing himself into a mobile pickle guy. So I was like, hey, what a great costume. There were like 200 Ricks running around State Street, I guess, this year, and no Mortys, and I heard no Pickle Ricks. So, yeah, every Rick needs a Morty. But so I thought this would be a fun one. It looked pretty simple. I started it about 2 weeks before Halloween and finished it about a week after Halloween. So it worked out great. I made it in time for Kate's party, at least the last half of it. A little bit. All right. Let's see. And I learned that I am not impervious to hot glue burns. So, yeah, my hand is still kind of numb from those.
I think you would be by now.
Yeah, you'd think. There's no tolerance buildup for that at all. But how I did with this was I used the Harbor Freight floor mats, which you can kind of see right there. And there really isn't much you can't make out of those with a good sharp razor blade and some glue.
And carpal tunnel.
Yeah, carpal tunnel too. So I used that to build up the tubular pickle form, and then did the relief cuts for the head and the bottom, and then covered it in shrink wrap, and then I used duct tape over that to create the pattern forms for the fabric, which I think this one will probably be the best. And I found that using the more premium cling wrap worked really well. So then I ended up with something like that to lay out flat, and then I used that to lay down and cut the pattern from, which I found the fabric that I used was it was scuba fabric. I don't know, it was like $6 a yard. It was really good. And I bought it the day before I finished it. So, but yeah, doing the curves and everything was kind of a pain, trying to figure out where you need that, but it worked out really well. I slapped it together kind of last minute once I had everything I needed. I like I got a glowing brain and spinal column on the back here. That seems to be the showstopper. But I've still got a couple boxes of stuff that should also go onto this, because he built arms and legs out of dismembered rat parts to walk around and run and jump, and then eventually takes on a Russian embassy and kills them all. So, but anyway, highly recommend the show. And if you don't know what Pickle Rick is, I mean, you really should know by now. That's there were a couple things I could have done better on it. Because it was so last minute, I ended up using just the press-on fabric tape. I didn't have a sewing machine on hand. Kind of did. I have one of those one-handed ones, but it wouldn't sew through 2 pieces of this fabric. It was just too thick for it to handle. So now it is kind of peeling apart. But anyway, this is my fun costume for this year. Those who know what it is go apeshit when they see you. And everybody else just kind of scratches their heads, as some of you are doing right now, I'm sure. And Jim said nobody will know who the hell that is.
Nobody who has a light.
But you still didn't know what it was. Come on, let's go. Yes?
Does Iron Man fit underneath that?
I'm sorry, what was your costume this year?
Burners.
A what?
Burners.
No, that's what you've been for the last month or so. For Halloween, though.
So how'd you get the fabric to contour the nose?
That actually was one of the things that I didn't like how it ended up. The nose piece was just a spare piece of the floor mat, and then I just like it was the fabric I used was a neoprene. Like I said, it was for scuba. I don't know if it's supposed to go over a wetsuit. Yeah, like wetsuit fabric. It is real stretchy, real forgiving.
It looks great.
Yeah, and so I mean, it didn't have to like glue it or adhere down to it. I did do some. Yeah, it just stretched around it, and then I think I put a couple of dabs of hot glue around it, just to get it to stick around, and then formed it around. It worked really well.
Yeah.
The teeth are just made from regular craft store craft foam. The eyeballs were the styrofoam balls that I just basically just covered in fabric and then zip tied at the end, and stuck them in there. And the eyebrows were just a spare piece of floor mats with felt over the top of it. So, yeah.
How did you figure out the curves?
Well, there was a tutorial, a 6-part tutorial that somebody had done online on how to do pickle ricks, because there was one guy who did. Yeah, okay, it won first place at Comic-Con this year. All right, this isn't like an obscure thing. People know this, okay? And if you don't know it, you should be in big the loop. All right. But yeah, so there was a guy who did a 6-part tutorial. Dome was basically what I should have started with for it was like a beach ball, and then I should have just cut that beach ball and then laid those out flat. But I was kind of going off of, you know, how you would picture like a map of a globe that's laid out flat. You kind of do it on those type of contours. But like I said, I mean, this stuff is cheap enough that, I mean, it's pretty forgiving, but getting those contours right is a bit tricky. And then just a couple sanding sticks over any of the sharp edges. And heat forming it works really great with this stuff. Just
So were you just using a heat gun and then using your hand?
Yep.
To bend it
Yep, and just kind of like bend it over your knee, or you know, just using it to shape over. I think I took like a metal mixing bowl and put that onto like a round tube, and then I was heating it up and then kind of shaping it onto that.
You retained its shape after it's been heated?
Oh yeah, yeah, really well too.
Could you try it on?
How do you get into it?
It's tricky with shoes on. Basically, I just climb in through there. And I didn't clean out the inside of it, so when I was doing a lot of the sanding, a lot of the the flakes, I didn't know it, but I accidentally had a blackface costume after I got out of it, and nobody said anything. I was walking around for like a half an hour, and I saw myself in the mirror, and I was like, whoa.
I didn't know that it wasn't a part of Pickle Ricks. I didn't know what Pickle Rick was. I thought
Yeah, it was before I showed you the episode, so you gave me a whole blackface in there. But it worked out really nice too, though, because my head was far enough back so that you really couldn't see, so it still looked like a black, shadowy indent in there, so you really couldn't see me too well. But I could still drink a beer, and it worked out well.
Put it in.
Walk the runway.
Seriously?
Have you given any thought to using
Well, that's because you had bedtime too soon.
That won't actually catch it. I'll start it forward. Got this, Aaron. Ah, there we go.
Yeah, I didn't do a test fitting before, so I should have had the legs a little bit, about an inch or two cut forward, and then the armhole should have been about an inch back.
Can you sit?
Alright, anybody got an Amazon next year?
I think I heard Aaron say if anybody wants
closed shop.
No.
So just think
Oh, and by the
wisely.
way, for anybody who's fans of Halloween props, this was a snake skeleton that I got from Target for like $12. Wow. But that was awesome, all right? After all the years I made the Predator costume, finding a good spine is hard to find. All right, top that.
I'll do the best I can.
Go for it, burners.
All right. Another one.
Oh, yeah, no, this is different thing.
Okay. So, I forgot my t-shirt. It's too late. So my name's Heather. I'm Chris's wife most days, I'm also the co-founder of a local nonprofit called Adjourn Group that works with women entrepreneurs to help them launch and scale, provide funding for their businesses. And I am also the lead organizer of Wisconsin Startup Week Madison.
Wow.
So Wisconsin Startup Week, this is the first year that they're doing it. It's happening this week across the state in all these cities. And the purpose of the week is to highlight the entrepreneurial ecosystems across Wisconsin and also show that there's more going on entrepreneurial-wise beyond Madison and Milwaukee. And also highlight the ventures, the organizations, and the individuals who are supporting entrepreneurship within our state. So as our inaugural year, and you can find all this on the website, we have over 10 events. You are all attending a Startup Week event right now. But most of these events that are listed, you can still register to attend them, that are happening tomorrow through Friday. Which ones have free beer? Because that's an entrepreneurial thing.
I want to know why the logo is the steak with the mushroom in it.
It's an arrow. Or a Christmas tree. Starting up. Yes. I didn't make the graphics. I was just given the So one thing we're trying to do in Madison between our events is how do we promote and create a more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem. So there's a lot of other weeks that focus on entrepreneurship for young professionals or just business collectives in general. And how do we start showing that we're all trying to work together to achieve the same mission of raising Wisconsin's profile on a national level as far as entrepreneurialism and business, and that we're not a flyover state, and there's a lot of innovative and awesome things going on within our state. Many of the things we see here at Sector, if you talk to the members, you'll see that a lot of things are going on. So like I said, feel free to go to the website, you can't see it on your screen, which is wistartupweek.org, or follow us on social media. If you happen to be able to find the website, you can sign up for our newsletter. All the events are hyperlinked to their registration pages, and then if you are interested in being part of Startup Week with us next year, you can reach out to me and I can talk to you more about that as well. So we are also the only city in the state that is completely organized by women. Sorry, I'm scrolling through that. In fact, most cities don't have any women on their organizing committees, so we are super excited about that, but there's also lots of opportunities for other people to get involved in the week, including what else is going on this week, or if you know of an organization that's having an event yet this week, we would love to talk to you. Next year we hope to not focus on just Madison, but start going to other cities to be part of their Startup Week events as well, so that we're not continuing to stay in our bubble and moving outside.
We like our bubble.
Most days I like our bubble too. Any questions or comments or feedback, I can take it. Got my drink. All right, thank you everybody.
a quick update on a bunch of people ask me about building, so it'd be just as easy if you talk about it.
Well, look at
Hey, notice that roof gets higher.
a lot of things that have been over at Corry working, but if you haven't been over there, look at a lot of different that has. I think last we sort of run this arc of like we gotta get the roof lift finished, we gotta get the roof bolted back in, then we gotta get the span creek floor set in, and we can start doing some walls. And since then, we've really threw an amazing amount of labor and working with really great partners. Have completed the roof lift, which was an inspirational, amazing, scariest Halloween I've had in a long time. Lifting the roof and getting it bolted in, but then so all the second floor, all the first floors too got erected, and it got leveled. So that was largely volunteer effort getting that first floor steel in. Colin came in and got it leveled for us. Yeah.
Stood up very well.
Been a series of things, including the tornado within 1,000 feet of that place. But sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here, but we're at a very inspirational point as we talk today. The roof is up to the full 10 feet bolted in. We're preparing for Thursday for Span Creek to come in and set the precast concrete planks in to create the actual second floor. At which point, then we will have, in essence, have the structural envelope specified by our engineer. It's going to be a lot safer to be in. It'll be, the walls still won't be in, but we have to begin a wall construction process that Sean probably put a lot of thought into that. And that's going to be where we can just put out a call for more volunteers to be over at the place working on that. People that haven't been a part of that sort of core crew. It's been a lot of hard sort of dicey work. Brian's done a great job with some time lapse videos to see the roof lift and some of the steel work. And so yeah, I think we are we're keeping velocity up on the project. It's been a phenomenal amount of work, and as I look around, probably half the people over here have been over there doing really a great job pitching in to make this thing go. So
Joe, pull up the video if Joe will.
There you go. All credit to Brian though, because he climbed up really high to put those cameras there that I would.
Actually, that's the end of. That's a different day. Yeah, that's just work in general, but that's them putting up the remains. Yep. There's a different one where you can watch the gap get bigger, but it's not the same.
Everything looks super easy on the timeline.
So what they're doing is putting up the beams around the perimeter of the building and then taking down the beams that were used to lift the building up. So you can see I'm dropping the cribbing out and then taking out all of the piles of wood.
Yeah, Heritage Movers did this work, and they were just amazing with the work.
So they had done this type of thing before?
Yeah, lots. They're amazing. The second floor beams, they were hanging over the shoulder.
This is the camera attached to the roof, so you can watch the roof go out with the camera. So you can see these guys are standing on these little tiny pieces of angle iron to put out these like 50, 60 pound oak logs that are all the cribbing pieces.
Where are the jacks?
The jacks are really small. They're in the center of the crib. The far left, lower left crib, you can watch the jack go up and down. It's in the middle of the pile of wood.
Oh, okay.
It's really small.
They only go up 1 foot.
Yep, so they go a foot at a time.
And do you have to jack them all at the same time?
They had a really cool load distributor thing the size of a refrigerator that made sure that they all went up at the same rate and stuff.
Oh, so it's all pneumatic control?
You can turn the lights back on. So basically, right now, up until now, all of the construction, and including this week, is all stuff where we're moving really, really big things, which there's a lot of risk to. So after we get through this part, we'll be building and framing in walls, which we'll need a lot more help with because there's a lot of walls to build. So at which point, if you haven't been able to be involved, you're certainly welcome to come out and help out as we're starting to frame in walls and put up panel products and make it a building, which means that it's got a box around it, which will be great. But basically by the end of this coming week, we should have a building with 2 floors, which is about 19,000 square feet. And start to be able to try to box that in before it starts to get real full. So it's kind of the next goal. Yeah, Mike?
Just real quick, can you guys explain what the wall structure is?
It's steel studs, would be 6-inch thick basically, and then there'll be plywood on the outside, 4 inches of is it XPS foam? EPS foam. So it's the white foam, the little pellet foam. 4 inches of that on the outside, and then 6 inches of blown-in cellulose on the inside. And then the inside will either be drywall or plywood, depending on what we're doing, and the outside will be steel on the outside of that.
So all the outside steel will be gone, thrown away?
Yeah, everything out. It won't get thrown away, but it'll either get recycled or we're going to repurpose the useful sections of it. So there's some sections that aren't damaged, but if any of you have been by the building, you see most of it's caved in. And it's not really reusable, but in an art sense, we might reuse it in the interior as some accent pieces or some finish or something like that. We'll see. Depends on how hard it is to get off in one piece. That's the
And if there's legend or
any other questions?
Are you guys going to be getting the wall? Are we going to get the walls up before grouting, or is the grouting happening to the spancrete before that, or?
The grouting will happen as part of the span.
Okay.
So the spancrete that we're talking about are 4 foot by 20 foot by 8 inch thick concrete deck sections that were prefabbed about a month and a half ago. They're sitting on a site in northern Wisconsin basically, and they're going to truck those down, and they'll get set up and erected by crane and just set into place. So there won't be any concrete being poured on site, it'll literally just be set in place, so it's ready to basically take load the second that it goes up. The only step is that they fill the gaps between the concrete deck sections with grout, which is what he was asking about, which is, so they're going to kind of flood the gaps with grout to lock everything in place, and that makes it into a continuous panel basically. So it'll turn into kind of a big floor. Yep.
What's the temperature requirement for that grouting?
They're going to heat it, doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's their problem.
The whole world is like held together by steel and concrete, but it's not. The whole world is held together by ground.
Yes.
Right? Ground holds the building up, ground holds the floor together, ground holds the floor on. This concrete and steel are just like accessories for the ground.
We'll do our best at capturing some carbon and releasing some carbon and making some grout. Anyway, thank you, Scott, and everybody else for there's
not enough things to go around for everybody to work the details on this thing, and also the local companies that have stepped up to help us out.
Do you expect to be lifting concrete on Saturday yet?
I have no idea what the plan is for the contractors. It's up to them to set a schedule.
But they won't be finished by Friday.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Anybody else got anything to present? Once? If you've never been here before, you want a tour, if you come up here, I can sort of show you around briefly as to what's here. And other than that, you're welcome to stick around and hang out and talk to people and all that kind of thing. So, thanks.
We're not going to do a round of applause to have you back?
Oh gosh, there it is. Okay. Oh, that's who it's not going to.
That's who it's not going to. She's dead to me.
Oh.